Welcome back, everybody, to Headquarters. I'm Parastock Dieris, along with John DeMeo, and our special guest tonight happens to be the legendary songwriter, Mr. Gerry Goffin. Gerry, welcome to our show.
Glad to be here.
Now, Gerry, how does it feel to be inducted into the prestigious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame by your peers?
Well, judging by the amount of talent that's already been inducted and the amount of talent that's going to be inducted in future years, I consider it a great honor.
Now, Gerry, was songwriting something you always wanted to do while growing up in New York?
No, in fact, I started out wanting to be a chemist. I always had songwriting as an avocation, and finally it all worked out for me, and I didn't have to be a chemist anymore and work in a lab.
Gerry, was your family very supportive of your career decision?
They were very much against it. They thought it was a very precarious way of making a living, and they were very much against it from the start.
Now, Gerry, when you were a youth, did you write a lot of songs for fun?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Now, were they more rock and roll songs, or were they more traditional stuff of like the 50s?
They started out as traditional stuff and grew into rock and roll.
Mm-hmm. Were you as excited by rock and roll when it started happening in the 50s and 60s? Did you know that once you heard this, you knew this was the vein that that you were going to go into, that you were going to make your career?
No, I like a variety of music my whole life, and although I love rock and roll, I didn't limit myself to just writing rock and roll.
Now, Gerry, do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
The first song I ever wrote? No, I don't. But I do remember the first song that was ever recorded.
Could you tell us and elaborate on that?
Well, I was going to Queens College at the time, and I met this girl, Carole King, and I was writing a play, and I made this deal with her that if she would write the play for me, the music to the play, I would write rock and roll lyrics for her. And we sat down and wrote a song called The Kid Brother, and it was recorded by Mickey and Sylvia. It was the very first song we ever wrote was recorded.
Now, Gerry, did your partnership with Carole King immediately click when you first began to write music with her?
We wrote a lot of bad songs for about what I consider to be bad songs for about a year and a half. And then finally, all of a sudden, we were writing right in the vein of what was commercially viable.
Gerry, how did you usually write songs with Carole?
Well, we'd sort of sit down, she'd play some chords. I would invariably sing some kind of melody over it. And sometimes I didn't get a chance to because she had a melody when I got home from work. And I'd write to that. That's how Will You Love Me Tomorrow was written. And I don't know, I wrote the melody to a lot of songs that were hits, but not the real good ones, because they were really layman's melodies, and Carole's melodies were more professional.
Mm-hmm. Now, Gerry, in the early days, as you said, you wrote songs like Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, Every Breath I Take, Take Good Care of My Baby, Go Away Little Girl, Locomotion. What was the inspiration for songs back then? Would you get it from doing any old thing, just looking around to be inspired?
Just by using my head, I thought up situations based on my teenage years, and I just try to keep a steady flow in my head of ideas, and some of them clicked, some of them didn't.
Now, you were always considered the lyricist of the Goffin and King team. Was there just like some kind of magic with the music that Carole would write, and you'd just be inspired? You come up with great lyrics like that, bang bang. Or were there a lot of songs you had to really labor over? And do you recall any in particular that it couldn't get right, and then you finally got it right?
Well, on any song, there's one or two lines that you can't get right, and you have to sort of labor over them. And some of them just come spontaneously, and you write the whole thing all at once. But I can't remember any particular song that I had to labor a lot over.
Now, Gerry, do you recall your first meeting with Don Kirshner and where it was and what exactly happened, what transpired that time?
Well, I remember the first meeting with Don Kirshner. He was very, he was very worried about signing me and Carole. And he finally gave us a great deal of $1,000 a year to sign, and
a decent amount of money back then.
Yeah, I guess so.
Now, Gerry, a lot's been said about what the situation was in the Brill Building, pop area and stuff. You had very small cubicles, all the writers, and like one floor in the building, and it was very cramped, no windows or anything. Was that actually what it was like? It was a very tight space, and you just were told, here, write music all day, and that's what you guys did?
Well, we weren't told to do it. We had the option of writing at home, but invariably we would come in, just to get that a little bit of electricity and write in the office.
Mm-hmm. Now, around 1962 and 63, the quote-unquote golden years of Aldon music, Don Kirshner launched his Dimension label, and you and Carole were handling a lot of the writing and producing. Did you feel a lot of pressure on you at a young age to be doing all producing and all songwriting for a new, flourishing record label?
No, I didn't feel pressure. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much, and I wish I got paid more for it, but I enjoyed it very much.
Now, Gerry, could you kind of give us a description of how it was to be working in an environment with the Neil Sedekas, the Jack Kellers, the Howie Greenfields, and so on? Was it a great time for you to write and work with these people?
Yeah, it sort of was. It was a camaraderie. I mean, people would sing on each other's demos. There wasn't this, backstabbing. There was friendship involved. We just sort of got paid for having a good time, really. And I look back to those days very fondly.
Do you still keep in contact with some of those people who worked back then?
Oh, yes. Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil are very good friends of mine. And in fact, Barry and I still write together once in a while. And I'm very friendly with Jeff Barry, and I know Ellie, and I of course Howie died, but Neil I talk to every once in a while. So with Jack Keller I call once in a while too, and Doc Thomas is a good friend of mine. We keep in touch.
Was it a surprise when Don Kirshner sold Aldon music to Columbia Screen Gems back in '64, I believe?
Yeah, I was very much against that. We were a small, close-knit little company, and he was selling to a major corporation, and I knew some of the magic would be gone once that happened. And I was right, he was out of the corporation within a year and a half, and we valued Donnie as a publisher, and he was no longer a publisher, and he sort of lost we sort of lost a good ally and I liked it when it was all the music much more much more than when it became Screen Gems and Cold Picks.
Now, Gerry, around 1966, again working with Don Kirshner, you wrote a couple of songs like Take a Giant Step and I'll Be True to You for the Monkees. Then you wrote one called Sweet Young Thing with Mike Nesmith. Now beforehand, you and Carole hadn't really worked with too many outside people. Did it all limit you working with a new guy, a new young hothead, with a lot of ideas like Mike Nesmith, or did he really spark a lot of creativity? Was it good chemistry?
No, it was very good chemistry. I enjoyed writing with Mike, and of course the Monkees were a big bonanza for us. We didn't have too many of their big hits, but we had a lot of songs on their albums, and I must have written around 10 or 12 songs for them, and those were good days. I enjoyed them.
One of those songs, Pleasant Valley Sunday, is like on a lot of people's top 20 lists for songs of the 60s. And at that time, were you at all involved within the Monkees project? Because there was a bit of turbulence at that time, when Don Kirshner was sort of pushed out and they gained control. A lot of politics coming from the Screen Gems side of things. Did you and Carole at all get involved in that? Or was your job just, hey, stay on the outside, write great music?
We just had to stay out of it, I mean, there was a lot of rivalry between, Bob Rafelson, who did the TV show, and Bert Schneider, who helped him, and Donnie, as who was going to be the top gun, so to speak. But we stood out of it, and we just wrote our songs, And I think when we wrote Pleasant Valley Sunday, Donnie was no longer part of the picture. I'm not sure. I don't remember the dates exactly.
Now, Gerry, do you think the Monkees television series elevated the success of the songs they recorded?
I definitely think the television show contributed to the success of the songs. It was a big show, and it was right in the pocket of what kids those days wanted to be, and the Monkees show definitely helped the songs.
Now, Gerry, pointing out the song Pleasant Valley Sunday for a second, there's one line which there was a lot of criticism about where you say, the local rock band down the street is trying hard to learn its song. And a lot of people took that as kind of a swipe to a lot of these new garage bands coming out who weren't going for songwriters. They were writing their own material. Things were changing in the 60s. Was that the angle when you were writing it?
No, it wasn't at all. The whole song was a whole swipe at we sort of lived in a little we lived in not a little house, but we lived in a suburban home, and I sort of was happy when we were living in a little apartment in Brooklyn, for some reason, I just couldn't get acclimate myself to the new environment, and there happened to be a rock group next door who used to drive me crazy because they were so terrible, and the song was sort of a swipe at suburbia, where people come out and everybody comes out at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and starts to mow their lawn, and everything is so parochial and unsoulful.
Now, to be honest, Gerry, that was probably one of the first Monkees songs that had a little bit of social commentary or enlightenment in it. This was a group that wasn't exactly known for being too politically active or socially motivated. Did you see it as at all sort of a conflict with their goody-goody image? That here's a bunch of guys, who are clowning around.
I think, it was a comment. It was sort of an immature comment, you know, because as years go by, I've gone by. You know, I feel a little less, you know. I mean, I've grown to respect the middle class a lot more, you know, because, you know, and I've become more conservative in my ways, but I just hated it then. You know?
Now, in 1968, you actually wrote and produced a song called the Porpoise Song for the Monkees from a cult film they did called Head. I mean, and this is like a classic psychedelic nugget from the late 60s. Now, how did you go into the producing of that song? Because it was really like nothing else you'd done before.
I don't know, I just wanted to... I was, you know, I felt that the kind of song I had been writing was becoming a thing of the past, and I wanted to try something a little more avant-garde, and so Bob Ravelson and Bert Schneider asked me to write a song for the movie Head, which wasn't as bad a movie as the box office reflected, but I just try to make it a little more psychedelic, you know, and I don't know whether it was a success or a failure. I know the sound quality on the record isn't very good, but I did my best, and that was Porpoise Song.
Mm-hmm. When you were producing for bands, Gerry, would you play it all? Like, did you have any hand in the actual and putting, you know, aside from the production of a song like Porpoise Song, did you actually get any licks down on maybe organ or something like that?
Most of the licks I put into the records came verbally. Mm-hmm. You know, I would sing them. Mm-hmm. I have no musical training, you know. I'm not a musician, you know, but you know, while the track is being made, sometimes I used to hear different little licks that I would give to the musicians. Eventually, when the whole you know, what is known as classic rock today became in vogue, I quit producing altogether, because how was I going to go out and tell Eric Clapton how to play a guitar solo?
It's true. On something like the Porpoise Song, though, was Mickey Dolenz the immediate choice to do vocals, or did you try it out with either Mike Nesmith, Peter Tork, or Davy Jones?
Tried it out with all three of them, and I still don't think we got very good results.
Oh, God. Wow. Who was the worst out of the three, as you recall? Which one just didn't come off right? It was totally inappropriate for that key.
Davy Jones.
Now, Gerry, was it tough for you as a songwriter to get work in the late 60s, early 70s now that bands were starting to write their own material?
Oh, yeah, it was very hard. It was very hard, but I just kept on, you know. I had to keep on, you know, because that was my profession, you know, and it affected not only me, but affected a lot of writers who were in my same category, and but I liked a lot of the music that was going on then in the late 60s, early 70s, so I couldn't say it was. I kept a good attitude about it, you know, and got through it somehow.
Now, Gerry, after receiving, you know, a million accolades for your songwriting ability, did you ever get the inkling to record a record? And to, you know, put your own pipes behind the words you wrote?
Well, I did record a record in '72, and it's sold about 2,000 copies, and it didn't do very well. So that was the end of my singing career.
Yeah, but were you happy with the results, or was it just another case of like the record company not working it or not putting anything behind it? Was it a quality record in your mind?
Oh, it was sort of a satire on the times, you know, and I thought it was a very funny record, and obviously most people didn't get it, and it was on a very small record label, and they didn't have the muscle behind them to promote it.
So, Gerry, what songwriters out there and what new artists, really impress you today?
Well, there's Diane Warren. She's a very good writer. I'm talking about a songwriter who isn't a performer.
Mm-hmm. Any singer-songwriters out there that you really take a bow to? You go, all right, these people, they got what it takes?
Well, I respect a lot of the people out there. I think George Michael is real good. I like U2. I like Sting.
So you're really up to date. You know a lot of the new artists. You're really into. You know, you're listening to a lot of new music.
I'm not that up to date, you know, because I don't listen a lot. But this past year, you know, I haven't been listening at all. But I just think there's a synthesizer maze going on out there right now. You know, where some songs are very indefinable. You know, and everything sounds like everything else. But that's what my parents told me when I started to write. So maybe I'm just getting old.
Well, rock and roll is certainly going to remember you, Gerry Goffin, because you have contributed so much to the industry and to many, many people have heard your music. Does that kind of make you feel special?
Not as much as I expected it to be. I sort of would like to take back the years and see if I could do better.